Alright, so today we're going to make the buttery soft pretzels. So the things that you're going to need for equipment are going to be a mixing bowl. You're going to need your measuring spoons. You're going to need your liquid measuring cup. You're going to need your dry measuring cups, different measurements. You're going to need a big metal spoon. You'll need a straight edge spatula, a wooden spoon, or a plastic in this case spoon. And then this is optional if you want to scrape the bowl. You're going to need a rubber scraper. If you don't use this, that's okay. This is more of an optional to get the flour out from on the sides of the bowl. All right, so the first step, for day one, is we're going to actually make the dough. So you guys have probably already made the pizza dough. It's very similar. Not exactly the same, but it is very similar. We're going to start with the liquid ingredients. So the directions say, in a liquid measuring cup, dissolve the yeast and the sugar in warm water. Stir until fully dissolved, and then add your vegetable oil. So we're going to use our liquid measuring cup, and we're going to get a half a cup plus 3 tablespoons. So it's kind of an odd measurement. You're going to go over to the sink to get the warm water. I'm going to use this warm water so I don't have to keep walking over there. But make sure the water is warm because the yeast does need to grow and activate, and cold water, it will not dissolve, and if the water is too hot, it will kill the yeast. So I'm going to make sure I'm looking at eye level. I'm going to look down and I'm going to pour the half a cup right into the liquid measuring cup. Alright, so we're good. We're at eye level. And then for you guys at the sink, just turn the water down a little bit to get your 3 tablespoons. I'm just going to put it right in here. And I've got 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Alright, now it calls for our yeast. So it calls for 2 teaspoons of yeast. I'm going to make sure that I'm using teaspoons and not tablespoons. So this will be the red one. And I'm going to, we're not cleaned, right? I'm going to put it right into the yeast, and I'm going to make sure that I level it off as well. And I'm going to level it off right back into the jar, if you can see that right there, just to make sure I don't get too much, because too much yeast, it will taste like yeast, and that does not taste good. So we've got 1, 2. Then it calls for a half a teaspoon of white sugar. So I'm going to go get the sugar bin, which is the smaller one, or if you have the bags of sugar. And it calls for a half a teaspoon. And again, I'm going to use my straight edge spatula to make sure I'm leveling everything off right back into the container. And then it says stir till dissolve. So that's why I have my metal spoon here. I'm going to take it and I'm going to stir this. So as you can see, it kind of chunks up and gets clumpy, but the more I stir this and keep it together, the more likely, or the more it will dissolve. Alright, so once it's fully dissolved or almost dissolved, it's almost there, I'm going to start adding my vegetable oil. So it calls for 1.5 teaspoons of vegetable oil. So I'm going to take teaspoon number 1. I'm not going to measure over the top of this because if I spill too much and I get too much in there, that's not going to work out for me. So I'm going to measure it just over the counter if I can clean the counter. Oops, he spilled it. 1.5. There we go. And I'm sure you've learned before that oil and water do not mix. So as you start stirring this together, the oil should break apart so that it's little tiny bubbles, but it will not fully mix into the liquid water because oil and water do not mix. So if I keep going, now my water just looks like brown, dirty water. And you can see that the oil has just broken up into little tiny bubbles, and it kind of just floats on top there. And that is what it's supposed to be looking like. So I'm going to take that. I'm just going to kind of set it aside so that I can do my dry ingredients. So next, I'm going to need my big mixing bowl. You're going to need a bigger one, not a smaller one. And it says, in a large mixing bowl, mix together the flour, sugar, and salt. It says, stir to mix the dry ingredients, and then we're going to make a well in the center. So I'm going to add my flour first. It calls for 2.5 cups. Now, do not stick the measuring cup right into the flour. This is going to pack it so that when I turn it over, it kind of stays into that same shape. You want to make sure that the flour is not packed it, because that's going to be too much flour, which is going to alter how the pretzel dough comes out. So I'm going to take the small half measuring cup, and I'm going to just take it and I'm going to just kind of drop it in over the flour bowl so not to make a huge mess, and it kind of just sifts right in there. And then I'm going to take my straight edge spatula and I'm going to go back and forth so that I level it off so that it looks like even, and then I put it into the bowl and then it comes out more fluffy than compact, and that's what I want. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to kind of shake it over the top. I'm going to shake it over until I get too much so I have a heaping amount, and then I'm going to take it and again level it off. 2. And then for my half a cup, I obviously can't just stick that one in there, so I'm going to use, I'll use this 1/4 measuring cup. And I'll just kind of shake it over the top so it doesn't pack it in there. I'll level it off. And there's a half. Alright, then it calls for 1/4 cup of sugar, so I'm going to come over and grab my 4th cup, and I'm going to need sugar. So I'm going to come over here. Now sugar doesn't pack. You don't need to take a measuring cup and spoon it into the measuring cup. You can just put the measuring cup right into the sugar. So I'm going to put it right into the sugar, get a heaping amount, and I'm going to level it right off. And I'm going to add it. It then calls for 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Now in the kitchens in school, I said before, we don't have a 3/4 measurement. So we're going to have to use a half plus a 1/4. I know some of you want to use a 1/4 3 times. That is fine too if you want, but the simpler way to do it is a half a teaspoon plus a 1/4 of a teaspoon, and that's going to be of salt. Again, don't measure the salt over the bowl, because if you add too much salt, they will taste disgusting. So I'm going to put it here. You can do it one at a time. I'm doing it together. And I'm going to also just level it off over the counter so I don't get too much, and I'm going to add those right in. This is where I'm going to take my wooden spoon and I'm just going to stir it together to make sure all that sugar and salt and everything is in there. Alright, it then says to make a well in the center. That just means to make a hole in the center so that everything is mixed evenly. So I'm going to kind of push the flour to the sides of the bowl so I have some sort of hole in the middle here. And then when I add my liquids in there, it's going to, this flour on the sides is going to fall to the middle and it's going to more evenly mix together. So if you look back over here, you can see that the top is now foamy. So I've got a little foam on top. I don't know if you can see from the side too. Sometimes you can. I don't know. But the foaming on the side means that on top means that the yeast is activated. This is a good thing. You want the yeast to be activated. If you don't get this foaminess on top, that your yeast is probably either used too hot of water or the yeast didn't dissolve. So this is what it's supposed to look like, a little bit of foamy and those little dots of oil. And then it will smell a little bit. It does kind of stink. It's just the yeast is fermenting. It's fine. So you're going to then take it and you're going to pour it right into the middle. And at this point, you're going to take your wooden spoon and you're just going to start stirring everything together. So the flour on the sides will come towards the middle and it will start coming together. Now, a lot of common mistakes I'll see is you guys measure the water in a liquid measuring cup and then dump it into the mixing bowl. Make sure all of your liquid ingredients stay in your liquid measuring cup and then your dry ingredients are in the bowl, and then you pour them in, because I've noticed before that you like to put the liquid ingredients in the mixing bowl before the flour. Alright, so I'm going to stir, stir, stir. Alright, it says if the mixture is too dry, add 1 or 2 tablespoons of warm water and keep kneading the dough until it is smooth. It will take about 7 minutes. So I'm going to mix with my hand until all of the loose flour, for the most part, is incorporated into the liquid ingredients. Alright, so at this point, I don't have too much flour stuck to the sides of the bowl here. I'm actually going to take it to the table and start using my hands. So I'm going to dump it upside down, dump the whole bowl out. And before I add flour, I'm going to try my best to just push it together with my hands first, because I might not need more water, but I might need more water. But I'm going to first try to knead it before I decide that. So when I knead, I'm pushing with the palms of my hands and I'm folding over, and I'm pushing and I'm folding. The more you do this, the more the dough will come together. It takes approximately 7 minutes, it says on the recipe, and it will take you approximately 7 minutes. Now, if your dough is extremely sticky, call either me or Miss Platt or your teacher over to make sure that you really do need more flour, because sometimes you guys add too much flour and it ruins the dough. Alright, so as you can see, the dough is it's bumpy, and that's not what you want. You want to knead it until it's smooth. So right now it's bumpy, so I'm going to keep going until it's smooth. It will get a little tougher as it goes. I don't think I need more water. This dough seems pretty good. It's not really sticking too much. Alright, once your dough is smooth, you're going to put it into one of the gallon-sized bags, and you're going to seal the bag up. Take as much air out as you can and seal it up. Because what happens is the gases from the yeast start releasing, and it will make the bag kind of blow up, and you don't want the bag to pop open because you don't want air to get inside the bag. So you're going to make sure it's sealed up tight, and then you're going to leave it on the counter, and then you will use it for tomorrow when you actually start rolling your pretzels. So I know I've been doing this for a little bit. It's getting a lot smoother. It's still a little kind of bumpy, but the more I knead, the smoother it's getting. So it will take me a couple minutes here, and this is going to be the end of day 1. And then I will show you how to put the pretzels together once it rises. So it could be kneaded a little bit longer, but for the most part, that's what it's supposed to look like.